Tell Me Everything with John Fugelsang.
I'm John Fugelsang. We're going to get to our producer, Thea Harper, in just a moment, but let me welcome Keith Price back onto the show. He is the official Hump Day Bae of SiriusXM, and you know, Keith, if you grew up like me in the late 50s listening to the channel OutQ, where Keith did the morning show. He was the first openly gay black radio host at SiriusXM. Make sure to catch his astonishingly fun Broadway podcast, Keith Price's Curtain Call. Comedy Daddy, welcome back.
Hey, hi Johnny, how you doing? What's
Not
going
too
on?
shabby. How are you? I'm excited about Broadway reopening, Keith. Is this really going to happen? I mean, they're saying September 14th that Broadway shows will. I mean, what's going on here?
Well, I was, doing my little gig over now. I've moved from the Actors Fund space, and I'm now working in the vaccination center.
Brilliant.
And so in the Vac Center, there are a ton of us artists that are in between gigs.
Right.
And one of the in-between gigs people happens to also be one of the company managers of Wicked. And she and I were talking, and I, was just like, how is this going to happen? She said, the only way that this is going to happen is that if Broadway can open up at 100%, because any other thing between now and then, if they try to do half a house, a third of a house with the screens and the this and the that, they're not going to make any money. They're just
exactly.
Not. It's like,
you can't do Broadway with a third opened house.
Exactly, because every figure that they've ever made based on a budget is based upon the fact that they have a full house, and that they're operating at least at like 85 to 90%, and papering the other 10 at the most, So they are waiting until we get more people vaccinated, more people in terms of like how they're going to handle dealing with the people at the door if they're not going to have their vaccines, or they're going to have to take a COVID test. There's a whole bunch of things that they're going to have to figure out first in dealing with the audience. And then you also have the logistics of, remember, every union, everything that you see on that stage is a union.
Yes.
And so all of those unions now are going to have to come to some different kind of agreement when we come back in the fall, or when they come back in the fall, because they're going to have to negotiate all of those contracts, especially if it turns out to be a big disaster. You know what I mean?
That's the thing, right?
Everybody gets sick again, and then we're back to square one.
It's funny that you mentioned Wicked, because Wicked was the last Broadway show I saw before the lockdown. I saw Wicked on Wednesday, the 11th of March, at a matinee. My mother-in-law had to cancel her trip to New York, and we took her tickets and saw Wicked. And the 12th of March, the very next day, was the last day Broadway shows were running. Now, there were 31 Broadway shows running, 8 shows in previews, 8 shows in rehearsals to open in the spring. And just so people know, Broadway employs almost 100,000 people. And before the pandemic, almost 250,000 people were seeing a Broadway show every single week. It is an important part of the economy. And now Governor Cuomo, one of my favorite icons of the theater, announced that the Broadway houses will open at full capacity on the 14th of September, presumably wearing masks. But Keith, I know that we're doing well in New York. The positivity rate for COVID went to 1.49% on Tuesday. That's the lowest level since late October. But how are they going to be able to run shows unless everyone out there feels so confident about sitting in a packed theater, they all buy tickets right away? I sort of feel like the audiences are going to be more scared to come back than the productions.
Well, I think that's going to be the first thing, because, again, you have to remember, too, if they decided to do something with the theaters, take out the first 10 rows so that there's enough space, between the audience and the stage. So, you know what I mean? If they have to make those kinds of changes, you can't give up 10 house seats, 10 rows of house seats.
Well, sure you can. Sure you can.
You can, but those are the prime big dollar ones, you can't imagine them doing something like that. And again, you remember too that yes, here in New York we are all wearing our masks and getting our vaccines on. At least most of us are. It's but you remember that that's an industry that's built on tourism. How are we going to control all of those people that are coming from all over? That especially across the states that don't have mandates and regulations, and so we could be getting the diseased best sitting in our audiences, and that could be a problem too. So, are we going to make everybody wear masks? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. That's probably going to happen. And I'm sure there'll be temperature checks as you walk into the theater as well.
Yeah, because you can't walk in sick. They don't want, it's like, so there's going to be a lot of really weird things that are going to happen. And when you're talking about a full Broadway house that could have, 2,000 people in an audience,
Yeah,
it's like,
that's the thing.
that's a lot of folks that we're going to be
A lot of
seeing,
people
a lot of
laughing
folks.
and cheering in a room with no windows. And again, I really can't wait for it to open. I can't wait to get back to going to the theater. I can't wait to having terrible auditions for the theater. But yeah, I think it will know a lot better by September how comfortable the whole world feels about this. Now, so far, only one Broadway show has announced plans to definitely reopen on the 14th. Do you know which play it is?
It's 6, right?
I've heard only one so far, but maybe you've heard more updated news than me. I heard Diana the Musical.
But see, 6 just today, there was, I don't know if it was like a secret email amongst the 6 fans or something, announced that they were starting to have sales for September.
Oh, that's great.
I believe it's for, what is it? It says May 5th. So it's supposed to be like the 6th through the 10th, if I remember correctly from the email that I saw. So like they are moving ahead and making plans as if.
And this is the big thing. I mean, you have to have a full house because, like, if a Broadway show is only playing to half capacity, the Broadway show closes. But if they're only able to have half capacity for social distancing, I don't know how they reopen and turn a profit. So we just have to wait and see.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is that poor 6, the show actually was supposed to open.
6, the musical,
was opening the night of that they shut everything down. So they had all of those previews. They had all of that great talk. It came over from London, so everybody was all excited about it. And then, the opening night, nope, sorry, can't have it. Broadway shut down. So, for them, it is really they are fighting hard because everybody wanted that show to open and be so fabulous. And so, it'll be interesting to see who forces it. Like Wicked was planning to come back at some point, and they, like I said, that's a huge Broadway show with all kinds of moving parts. That defying gravity number where they have the crane that picks up Elphaba and has her swing. Like all of those things have not been oiled, looked at, or used in over a year. So you have to get all of that machinery back, and then you got to get all of those people back. You got to reset all of those cues. You got to, it's a big deal just to put the show itself back on.
Mm-hmm.
So you think about putting the show itself back on is going to be a huge Herculean event. And then you add all of the COVID stuff that has to go on top of that. And then you think, how's that going to cut into my profit as a producer? And it's going to be interesting to see how they juggle it. And
this is how the world is going to come back, though. This is how the world is. Yeah, we're going to come back to the world in a very messy, stop and start, disorganized, fucked up, unpleasant, uncomfortable way. I mean, and that's because we care about each other and because we don't want to have super spreader events at our public gatherings. So I think this is just what the normal is going to look like for the next year. We had a year of lockdown and then a year of stop and start. And let's just try to look good and not be the person freaking out during it.
Welcome back to Tell Me Everything with John Fugelsang on Sirius XM Progress 127.
Hey, I want to thank all you guys for listening to us when you could have been sucking your brains to a vacuum of space watching Caitlyn Jenner exchange ideas with Sean Hannity. So thank you. Keith Price, how do our listeners follow you and keep up with all your work?
Oh, my God. That just told me off. At Comedy Daddy on the Twitter, KeithPriceComic.com. And again, if you are in the entertainment industry and you still are in need of your vaccine, go to ActorsFund.org and call us up and have them get you scheduled.